Hello, algebra students. Let's look at how this concept of solving multi-step equations can show up in actually geometry. So pause me if you don't have your formula sheet in your calculator. Go grab them, then come back and let's take a look. Find the base length of a triangle with an area of 33, and that little abbreviation doesn't say inch squared or inch to the second power. Although I suppose you could read it that way. It says square inches. So 33 square inches and a height of 11 inches. All right. I see some interesting things. I see the name of a shape, triangle. I see a type of measurement, area. Another type of measurement, height. And we're finding another type of measurement, base. If you go hit up the GED formula sheet, you will find that the area of a triangle formula relates these three things: the area, base, and height of that triangle. And so we're going to copy that formula down. A is equal to 1/2 of the base times the height. And now let's plug in what we know. Remember, as you're substituting in what you know, to put in the measurement, trade out the measurement for the appropriate number. A lot of students just want to always plug in on the right. Don't do that. Think about it. Let's start with this. The problem says find the base length. That means B is the thing I don't know. B is the thing I'll end up solving for. But what do I know? It says we have an area of 33 inches. So I know the area. Instead of having an A in the equation, I'm going to have the known value 33. Now don't drop your equal sign and don't lose any numbers. 1/2 was in the original formula, the original equation. It needs to be in your substitution step as well. Now, we said B was the thing we don't know, the thing we're solving for. So when you have a mystery in algebra, it remains a letter. So I'll still have B there. But the height, the H, is known. Look, it says we have a height of 11. And so I can put in an 11 instead of an H. Now, that being said, this looks a little funny. The question here is, what are 1/2 B and H, or 11, doing? Well, they were all shoved together, so all three of those numbers are multiplying. This says the same as 1/2 times B times 11. And it's good to think about it that way because, remember, we can simplify before we start solving. And when three numbers are just multiplying, it doesn't matter what order you multiply in. You can do whatever order you want. And we can use that fact in order to simplify this. You can do 1/2 times 11. Now, you can do that in your calculator, 1/2 times 11. You'll get 11 halves. If you do, I would press the quick convert button right over enter to get it in a decimal form. Most of you guys like a decimal form. Or another way you could type it into your calculator is just to do 0.5 instead of 1/2. And times it by 11. But either way you do, you're going to figure out that 11 times 1/2 is 5.5. You can just as easily write 11 halves, you guys. I just didn't want to because it scares you all. So I dealt with this and this number, but I still have a B. And I still have my equal sign, and there's no simplifying to do on the left-hand side. So now, new equation, which is definitely simpler, is 33 is equal to 5.5b. And now there's no more simplifying I can do. I should definitely start solving. I want to get rid of this 5.5 multiplier, so b can be alone. So I'll do the opposite. I'll divide by 5.5. And I can do whatever I want as long as I do it too. Both sides got to respect that equal sign there. Keep the two sides equivalent. And now let's see what happens. Multiplying and dividing by 5.5 are opposites. They cancel. B's alone, just like I wanted it. And it is going to be equivalent to whatever I get when I do 33 divided by 5.5. What is that? 6? 6. Beautiful. And what does this say? It says 6 is the base length. All right. Now 6 what? Let's see. We were in inches. It's going to be 6 inches. Not 6 square inches, just 6 plain old inches, because a base is just a line. It's just a linear measurement. It's one of the sides of your triangle, basically. All right, 6 inches. Now let's look at a little bit more of a complex example here. Get that sucker out of the way. So a cylinder has a volume of 376.9 cubic centimeters. If the radius of the cylinder is 4.4 centimeters, what is its height to the nearest tenth of a centimeter? All right, some clues here that I should be reaching for my formula sheet right now. Take a look here. We say that we have a cylinder. We know its volume. We know its radius. And we're looking for the height. What is its height? Let's bust out the volume of a cylinder formula. So check out your formula sheet and you'll see its volume is equal to pi r squared, basically the area of that circle on the base, times the height of the cylinder. And now once again, if we have any known values, we should start by substituting those in. And we do. We know the volume. We know V. And so instead of calling it mystery V, I will put in the number that it is equal to, 376.9. My equal sign is going to stay equal. Now, pi is not a variable. It is a number, but the GED formula sheet does say we can use 3.14 as an approximation for pi. It's actually a much longer decimal that goes on, but permission to round given by the formula sheet, so we'll put 3.14. Next letter I see, or next thing I see in this equation is an R. R stands for radius. Do we know the radius? Indeed we do. Radius is 4.4. So R is 4.4, and see how the pi and the R are shoved together? Open up parentheses, get that 4.4 in there. Close the parentheses before you put on this square. Next thing we see in the formula is the H. Well, that's the thing we don't know, right? What is its height? H is what we're solving for. In algebra, we use letters for mysteries. Now, this might look gross to you, but like we've been talking about, we can make it simpler before we even start solving. Now, of course, there's nothing to do on the left-hand side, right? It's just a single number over here, 376.9. Not really going to be able to make that simpler. But I sure can do all the math here for that number that's multiplying with H. That whole thing is shoved against H. That whole thing is multiplying it. And I'm just going to type it all in my calculator. I'm going to type 3.14, open up parentheses, 4.4, close parentheses, squared equals something kind of long, actually, 60.7904. And that's that entire piece. So that's, as you know, simpler, but I still have the H. Make sure that drops, the equal sign, and the 376.9. And now, this is relatively simple. I mean, I know the decimals look gross, but it's easy enough to get rid of this multiplier, 60.7904, by dividing. I'm trying to be super neat and not lose any digits. That's a problem I have when I have long numbers here. Oops, I already did it. I told you I was trying not to, and I did it. Not 6,079, Kate. 60.7904. All right, let's look at that right-hand side. We're multiplying by this big, long, ugly number and dividing by this big, long, ugly number cancel. So H is alone just like I wanted. And then on the other side, there's the math to do. 376.9. Be careful with your calculator. Don't be like Kate. Divided by 60.7904 equals 6.1999, yada, yada, yada. That's pretty ugly. Do we have any rounding directions? Let's see. What is its height? Oh, here we go. To the nearest tenth of a centimeter. They want it rounded to the tenths place, to 1 decimal place. And so my number is going to end at the tenths place. Well, don't just throw away 999 without deciding how close you actually were to 6.2. Obviously, I'm well past halfway through my digits. 9 is big enough to matter. I'm actually closer to 6.2 than I am to 6.1. I'm going to call that height 6.2. Now, the question is 6.2 what? Let's see. Volume in cubic centimeters, radius in centimeters. This is centimeters. And this is just a height, which is just a linear measurement. Guys, it's a line. So plain old centimeters, not cubic centimeters. This 6.2 is not the volume. All right, nice. So it can look a little tricky, but again, take away this idea that if there's any simplifying that you can do to clean up your equation before you start solving, do it. It'll make everything else a lot simpler. All right, you guys, super proud of you. Happy learning.